And we're going to win this election because the American people understand that there is something profoundly wrong in the richest country in the history of the world when we have more income and wealth inequality today than at any time in the last 100 years. It is not acceptable to working people in this country that 3 people own more wealth than the bottom half of American society. It is not acceptable that tens of millions of people are working 2 or 3 jobs just to take care of their families. It's not acceptable that half of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. Okay. Brian, get off the stage. It is not acceptable that we are living in a society where so few have so much and so many have so little. Today, we got 500,000 people sleeping out on the streets of America. Today, we have 18 million families paying 50% of their limited incomes for housing. Today, we have hundreds of thousands of bright young people who cannot afford to get a higher education. Today, we have 45 million people paying a student debt that many of them cannot afford to pay. So what our campaign is about and what our administration will be about is rethinking America, understanding that all of our people, when I say all, I also mean the undocumented in this country. That all of our people are entitled to basic human rights. That if you work 40 hours a week in America, you should not earn starvation wages. I have talked to too many people in Texas and all over this country. Yeah, they got a job, but they got a job that is paying them a wage which is unlivable. And that is why we're going to raise the minimum wage in this country to at least $15 an hour. And that is why we believe that it is absurd that women in America make 80 cents on the dollar compared to men, and minority women, Latino, African American women, make even less. And that is why we are going to establish equal pay for equal work. That is why when millions of workers all across this country want to join a union, because they understand that when you're in a union, you can negotiate decent wages and decent benefits. Thank you, National Nurses Union. We're going to make it easier for workers to get into unions, get decent wages and decent benefits. All of you know that our infrastructure, that is our roads, our bridges, our water systems, our wastewater plants, are crumbling. You all know that we have a major crisis in affordable housing, in homelessness. We are going to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure, build 10 million units of affordable low-income housing, put millions of workers to work at good-paying union jobs. And when we look at this country, we understand that education is enormously important. And we understand that if this country is going to do well for all, we need to have the best public education system in the world. And that means universal, high-quality child care. It means tripling funding for low-income Title I schools so that all of our kids, regardless of the color of their skin or the language they speak, regardless of the zip code they live in, gets the kind of education that they need. And we believe, if we believe in education, which we do, it means we believe in educators, teachers. I hope very much that many of the young people who are here will give consideration to becoming a teacher. We desperately need great teachers in America. We need more Latino teachers, more African American teachers. We need more teachers. And because we believe in the importance of the work that teachers are doing, we're going to fight to make sure that no teacher in America earns less than $60,000 a year. And because we believe in educational opportunity for all, we're going to make public colleges and universities and trade schools tuition free. "12 years ago, some of you may remember that the United States Congress, against my vote, voted to bail out the crooks on Wall Street who nearly destroyed the economy. 2 years ago, Trump and his friends gave $1 trillion in tax breaks to the 1% and large profitable corporations. Well, I believe that if Trump can give $1 trillion in tax breaks to the 1% and large corporations, we can cancel all student debt in America. The United States of America, the wealthiest country in the history of the world, is the only major nation on earth that does not guarantee health care to all people. Together, we are going to end that embarrassment. And I want you all to understand, the media sometimes misses this. The idea of universal health care is not a radical idea. I live in Burlington, Vermont. Come on up and visit us sometime. 50 miles away from where I live in Canada, everybody goes to any doctor they want. You don't have to take out your wallet or your credit card. If you get sick and you end up in a hospital for a month, you come out of that hospital without owing one nickel. That's not just Canada. It's the UK, it's France, it's Germany, it's Sweden, it's Denmark, it's countries all over the world. They understand what you understand, what I understand. Health care is a human right, not a privilege. And I want to thank the National Nurses United Union. These are the nurses who are on the front line of healthcare. They're taking care of all of us. every single day. They know how dysfunctional, how cruel the current system is. Thank you, nurses, for all you're doing. Now, you're going to see a lot on television that Bernie's ideas are too radical, can't be done. So let me take a minute to explain what Medicare for All means, what the nurses have been fighting for, what the American Academy of Physicians is fighting for, what I'm fighting for, or what many of you are fighting for. This is what it means. It means no more premiums for workers or their employers. Premiums gone. It means no more co-payments when you walk into a doctor's office. Gone. It means we end the insane concept of deductibles. So millions of people have health insurance, but they still can't go to the doctor because they got a $5,000 deductible. Medicare for All means we end all out-of-pocket expenses. And because we are going to take on the greed and the corruption of the pharmaceutical industry, an industry that charges our people sometimes 10 times more for the same exact drug sold in Mexico or in Canada. Under our administration, that thievery is going to stop. And nobody in America will pay more than $200 a year for prescription drugs. Now, right now, I want everybody to hear this. We are spending twice as much per person on health care as the people of any other country. It's not that we're not spending enough money. We're spending $11,000 for every man, woman, and child in this country. And yet, despite that huge expenditure, we have 87 million people uninsured or underinsured. We got at least, and I think the number is higher, at least 30,000 people who die every single year because by the time they walk into the doctor's office, because they're uninsured, their situation is terminal. We have 500,000 people in America who go bankrupt because of medically related bills. Think about it for a second. Think about somebody who is struggling with cancer or heart disease or Alzheimer's. What a struggle it is to get well. And yet, on top of all of that, they got to worry that their family is going bankrupt. In America, you should not suffer financial ruin because you got sick. So today it is inhumane. That's exactly what it is. It is cruel and inhumane. So today we say to the drug companies and the insurance companies who made $100 billion in profits last year, we say to them that the function of the humane healthcare system is to guarantee healthcare to all, not to make the drug companies and the insurance companies rich. Now, Donald Trump embarrasses us every single day. But in one area, he is embarrassing and hurting not only the American people, but people all over the world. Donald Trump thinks that climate change is a hoax. Stand up. Now, Trump thinks climate change is a hoax. But you know what? The scientific community believes that climate change is the greatest possible threat facing our country and the planet. And you know what? I kind of trust the scientists over Donald Trump. So I am proud to tell you that we have introduced the most comprehensive climate change proposal ever introduced by a candidate for federal office based on the principles of the Green New Deal. And what that proposal does is it moves this country as quickly and as aggressively as we can away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energies. And by the way, under the Green New Deal, we create up to 20 million good-paying union jobs. And what the Green New Deal is about is simply saying to the fossil fuel industry, makes billions and billions of dollars every year, that their profits are not more important than the future of this planet. This is not an issue, frankly, that we have an option. If we want to make sure that your kids and your grandchildren and future generations live in a planet that is healthy and habitable, we have got to transform our energy system. End of discussion. There is no option. And when we talk about issues of enormous importance to this country, it means major, major reforms for a broken and racist criminal justice system. This is the United States of America. We should not be having more people in jail than any other country on earth, including communist China, 4 times our size. And the people in jail, as everybody here knows, are disproportionately African American, Latino, and Native Americans. So what we are going to do is invest in jobs for our kids, in education for our kids, not more jails and incarceration. And because we believe in equal justice under the law, we are appalled that today, as we speak, 400,000 people in this country are in jail not having been convicted of anything. They are in jail because they cannot afford bail. They're poor. And that is why we're going to end cash bail in this country. And because we believe that corporations should not be making millions in profit by locking up fellow Americans, we're going to end private prisons and detention centers. And because we believe that the so-called war on drugs has destroyed too many lives, we're going to end the war on drugs, legalize marijuana in every state in this country. Let me ask you all a question. How many people here know someone who was arrested for possession of marijuana? That's what the war on drugs is about. We're going to move to expunge the records of those arrested for possession of marijuana. And I'll tell you what else we're going to do. And this is not an idea that I came up with. It's an idea that friends of mine from the African American and Latino community told me. And what they said, Bernie, you know, why don't you think about helping those communities that have been hardest hit, who have suffered the most from the war on drugs? And what we're going to do then is not allow a few corporations to control legalized marijuana in America. We're going to invest in the African American community, the Latino community, the Native American community. We're going to help those communities make a profit, create jobs from the legalization of marijuana. And let me say a word about another system that is broken and racist, and that is the immigration system in this country today. I don't know if any of you know this. I am the son of an immigrant. All right? Like many of you, my father came to this country at the age of 17. He didn't have a nickel in his pocket, couldn't speak a word of English. He had very limited education. I know a little bit about the immigrant experience. And let me tell you, on day one and henceforth, we are going to end the demonization of the undocumented in this country. You know, and I want to say this. Many of you may know this, some of you may not. You know, Donald Trump every day tells us we're supposed to hate the undocumented, right? Supposed to hate them. But when he was a private businessman in New York, and is a private businessman who owns resorts all over the country, he loved the undocumented. He hired them. He exploited them. Donald Trump is not only a liar, he is a fraud. So on day one, through executive order, my promise to you is we will end all of the racist immigration executive orders promulgated by Trump. And on day one, this is, you know, some things you could do by executive order, some things you gotta need legislation for. But by executive order, we will reestablish and restore the legal status of the 1.8 million young people and their parents eligible for DACA. We're going to end our border policy so that no federal agent again will ever snatch a baby from the arms of her mother. We are not going to be locking children up in cages. We're not going to be separating families. And we're going to end the ICE raids that are terrorizing communities all across this country. And the truth is that despite Trump's racism and his demonization of the undocumented, the American people want and we will deliver comprehensive immigration reform and a path toward citizenship for all 11 million undocumented. Now, earlier today, just a few hours ago, when I landed in El Paso, we went to the memorial at the Walmart shopping area in honor of the 22 people who were mowed down. And I was thinking what a horror it is to see that not only was there a mass shooting, there was a mass shooting here just trying to kill Latino people. That a few years ago in Charleston, South Carolina, some sick person walked into a black church, shot down African Americans. Last year, another sick person walks into a synagogue in Pittsburgh, shoots down Jewish people. What we have got to do as a country is do everything possible to end the hatred. We are all human beings with common dreams. We share a common humanity. And we got to end that hatred. We got to come together, black and white and Latino, Asian American, Native American, gay and straight. We got to bring people together. And as president, I will do everything I can to do that. And let me tell you this, that our cabinet, our administration will in fact look like America. Now, there will be at least one old white guy up there. But you're going to look, when you see that cabinet, when you see that administration, you're going to say, wow, this is what America looks like. And let me say a word about the incredible amount of gun violence that you have experienced here, that other cities and communities all over America have experienced. Our gun policy will be written by the American people, not the NRA. We will have universal background checks. People with violent backgrounds should not be owning guns. We're going to end the gun show loophole. And we are going to do what the American people want, ban the sale and distribution of assault weapons in this country. And as a United States Senator, you know, I hear a lot of speeches on the floor of the Senate, and I hear some of my conservative Republican colleagues talk about small government and getting the government off the backs of the American people. And I say to those hypocrites, if you believe in getting the government off the backs of the American people, understand that it is women who have a right to control their own bodies, not the government. And let me say this to the men who are out there. The women in this country today are under assault. They're under attack every day. Men, stand up for the women. So my promise to you as president, I will never nominate anybody to the Supreme Court or the federal bench who is not 100% pro Roe v. Wade. We will codify, put into law Roe v. Wade, and we will significantly expand funding for Planned Parenthood. Now, as a United States Senator, I know the power of the corporate elites and the 1%. They are enormously powerful. They have endless amounts of money, underline endless. They own the media. They have a huge impact over the political life of our country. They buy and sell politicians. They obviously have an enormous impact over our economy. But at the end of the day, the 1% is 1%. And the last I heard, you know, I don't have a PhD in mathematics, but the last I heard is that 99% is a heck of a larger number than 1%. So if we stand together, if we do not allow Trump and his friends to divide us up, that's what they're trying to do every day. They're trying to divide us up, black and white and Latino, Native American, Asian American, gay and straight. They want to divide us up, And when we get divided up, we are weak and powerless. When we stand together, when we come together, there is nothing we cannot accomplish. You know, a few minutes ago, before I came on, I did a TV interview with a local TV station, and the fellow who was interviewing me said, you know, Texas is a conservative state. I don't believe it. What my impression, what I believe in this state, if working people, if young people, if the minority communities come out in large numbers, we can turn this state around. Your vote is your power. Not good enough to complain that you're earning starvation wages. Not good enough to complain you can't afford housing. Not good enough to complain about racism or sexism or xenophobia. Now is the time for action. Now is the time to get involved in the political process. This is the most consequential election in the modern history of this country. Texas will play an enormous role. If we win here in Texas, Trump is finished. On a week from Tuesday, Super Tuesday, Texas votes. There's early voting going on right now. Okay? Please vote early. Please bring your friends and your family and your neighbors out to vote. We can win the Texas primary. We can win the Democratic nomination. We can defeat Donald Trump. And we can transform this country. Let's do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblywoman Jauregui. Thank you, Congressman Brown. Thank you to Chasten, my love, who got a little more than he bargained for on that first date. Thank you to our phenomenal leadership team, to our Nevada supporters, and thank you to all of you for making this a great day for our campaign here in the Battleborn State. To those who questioned whether a Midwestern mayor could gather a national movement around a new kind of politics, you are the answer. And to everyone who believes in what we're building, this is your night. This is your campaign. It belongs to the most talented and energetic and kind team of organizers and staff and volunteers that I have ever seen. It belongs to the nearly 1 million grassroots supporters who have gone, yes, to PeteForAmerica.com, and who I'm hoping will help us raise that $13 million we need by Super Tuesday to stay competitive and make sure we succeed. It belongs to the students and the entrepreneurs, to the veterans and the culinary workers, to the people of every religion and of no religion who agree that God does not belong to a political party in the United States. It belongs to the dreamers, the soñadores, wondering whether this country will ever be their own. Los reconocemos, los valoramos, y ustedes pertenecen en este país, que es tu país también. You belong in this country. This campaign belongs to everyone, ready not only to end the era of Donald Trump, but to launch the era that must come next. Now, that bright, bright future lies before us, but it is far from certain. It will come only if we get this nomination right. And so we are moving on from the battle-born state with a battle on our hands. I congratulate my competitors on a vigorous campaign here in Nevada. And I congratulate Senator Sanders on a strong showing today, knowing that we celebrate many of the same ideals. But before we rush to nominate Senator Sanders in our one shot to take on this president, let us take a sober look at what is at stake for our party, for our values, and for those with the most to lose. There is so much on the line. And one thing we know for sure is that we absolutely must defeat Donald Trump and everything that he represents in November. This is important. We share these ideals, but I believe the best way to defeat Donald Trump and deliver for the American people is to broaden and galvanize the majority that supports us on the critical issues. Senator Sanders believes in an inflexible, ideological revolution that leaves out most Democrats, not to mention most Americans. I believe we can defeat Trump and deliver for the American people by empowering the American people to make their own health care choices with Medicare for all who want it. Senator Sanders believes in taking away that choice, removing people from having the option of a private plan and replacing it with a public plan, whether you want it or not. I believe that we can bring an end to corporate recklessness and rebalance our economy by empowering workers, raising wages, and insisting that those who gain the most must contribute the most in order to keep the American dream going forward. But that is different from Senator Sanders' vision of capitalism as the root of all evil, that would go beyond reform and reorder the economy in ways that most Democrats, not to mention most Americans, don't support. I believe we need to defeat Donald Trump and turn the page on this era in our politics by establishing a tone of belonging, bringing an end to the viciousness and the bullying that is tearing apart our country. We must change what it feels like to live in the United States of America. And that is a real difference from Senator Sanders' revolution with the tenor of combat and division and polarization, leading to a future where whoever wins the day, nothing changes the toxic tone of our politics. I believe the only way to truly deliver any of the progressive changes that we care about is to be a nominee who actually gives a damn about the effect you are having from the top of the ticket on those critical frontline House and Senate Democrats that we need to win. The presidency is not the only office that matters, and we have got to support those frontline races because we need them to win in order to make sure that this agenda that we have is more than just words on a page. And it is different from Senator Sanders' willingness to ignore or dismiss or even attack the very Democrats that we absolutely must send to Capitol Hill, because we must send them there to keep Nancy Pelosi as Speaker, to support judges who respect privacy and democracy, and to send Mitch McConnell into retirement. Let us listen to what they are telling us and support them from the top of the ticket. It is too important. That is the choice in front of us. We can prioritize either ideological purity or inclusive victory. We can either call people names online or we can call them into our movement. We can either tighten a narrow and hardcore base or open the tent to a new and broad and big-hearted American coalition. This is our shot. This is our only shot to beat Donald Trump. So I am asking Americans to make sure that we get this choice right. Now, ours is the only campaign that has beaten Senator Sanders anywhere in the country during this campaign cycle. And here's how we did it. By bringing in new voters, by running strong across age and gender and ideology, by reaching into cities and suburbs and rural communities alike. We've done it not by consolidating one extreme faction, but by growing an American majority that is united not only over who it is we're against, but in what it is that we are for. Ours is a coalition hungry for action if we mobilize fellow Americans as allies instead of pushing them into adversaries. We have shown that we can turn the page on our broken politics without turning off most Americans from our politics. And that is that support of Americans from all walks of life that has fueled our campaign. From those first contributions that helped us make it to be among the 20 candidates invited to the first debate stage, to the hundreds of thousands who have joined us since, from our grassroots donors to our amazing volunteers. Our tent welcomes supporters like the 16-year-old in Las Vegas, not even old enough to vote, and a woman in Pahrump who hasn't been involved in politics since JFK was running. It's the student in Orangeburg who wants greater funding for HBCUs, and the grandmother in New Hampton who is passionate about addressing our climate emergency. It is the inspiring young Latina lawmaker who survived a massacre and made it her mission to see that Nevada enacted the kind of common sense gun reforms that we need across the United States of America. We speak to Democrats, to independents, and even to Republicans who can no longer look their children in the eye and explain this president, who we are now delighted to call former Republicans and sometimes even precinct captains for this campaign. You are welcome in this effort. So if you're ready for that future when there's no such thing as an uninsured American or an unaffordable prescription, this campaign is for you. If you believe, like the mother and fast food worker that I got to march with in Charleston, seeking a fair wage so she could afford her son's medication, if you believe that one job ought to be enough in this country, this campaign is for you. If you were among the Americans I have met, from farmers in rural Iowa to Nevadans forging a clean energy future, to act as a nation on climate before it is too late, this is the campaign for you. If you know we must act in our time so that your race has no bearing on your health or your wealth or your experience with law enforcement in the United States of America, this campaign is for you. if you are for honoring our troops by seeing to it that they are never sent into endless war and never abandoned when they return, this is the campaign for you. If you believe that our country will be a better place if we honor our teachers a little more like soldiers and pay them a little more like doctors, this campaign is for you. And if you believe in a democracy where every vote is counted and every voter counts, where nobody wins a political race by discriminating on the basis of race, this campaign is for you. In other words, if you are ready to get to work to send Donald Trump packing and start healing this nation, this campaign is for you. I feel such joy when I think about the America that we are building. One that lifts people up instead of bringing them down. One that calls for leaders to walk in the way of decency and humility, knowing that the purpose of the presidency is not the glorification of the president, it is the unification and the empowerment to the American people. I saw that unity. I saw that empowerment. I saw that illumination beautifully symbolized right here in Nevada last summer during what was very literally one of the darkest moments of this campaign. We're near Reno. We were in Sparks at the high school. In the middle of my remarks, the power went out completely. I was talking to a dark room, speaking as loud as I could, no microphone, trying to make myself heard. And it took a moment, but then something happened. Somebody held up the screen of their iPhone. And then another, and then another, holding up their lit phones together until the whole room was lit up. And from where I was standing, I couldn't see who was behind each light, who was young and who was old, and who was white and who was black and who was Latino and who was Asian and who was Native, and who was standing on 2 feet and who was in a wheelchair. I just saw each little light and knew that behind it was an American who saw when the lights went out and knew right away what to do about it. Yeah. It just took one person. One person started it, and then a bunch of others began to do the same. And if we can light up a high school gym like that, then we can light up a neighborhood. And if we can light up a neighborhood, then we can light up a city. And if we can light up a city, we can light up this whole country. And if we light up this country, then everyone can make sure this country we love shines as a beacon around the world once more. So I'm asking you to join us in spreading that hope. Join us in lighting up this room. Because that is the hope that will move America forward. That is the hope that makes us hopefuls when we run for office and when we help those who do. It is the hope that makes it possible for us to stand here in a room together with a candidate for president, his husband at his side, and people from all walks of life united in a common vision for the future. Join us in building that American life shaped by belonging. Join us in creating that American future that faces our challenges with boldness and unity, and together we will light up this country in November. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. On to South Carolina, on to the nomination, and on to the White House with your help. Thank you.